is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Gaspers found his redemption at Laguna Seca, while Halliburton floundered with mistakes. And while we went from a long lap to a shorter lap, today's race takes us to a circuit where laps will be over in a flash. Even the lesser-powered SRF will be racking them up in today's 40-minute race. It'll be a bull ring-like experience for these road course racers. Which of them will be able to deal best with the tight confines? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, Brands Hatch is another one of those tracks that seems to have kept that old school feel. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Joe, located in West Kingsdown in Kent, England, Brands Hatch has a long history. Being a venue for cross-country runners and cyclists in the mid-20s, the track we know opened its gates on the 16th of April in 1950. Back then run clockwise, this 6-turn 1.2-mile short track features just as our last week's track, great elevation changes and blind apexes. As Joe already said, Brands is quite old school because the track is so narrow and has no paved runoffs, so a mistake can cost you dearly. Always destined to put on a show, the Weekend Warriors and Brands Hatch are ready to run. But first, let us show you how narrow and punishing this track is as we take you on a lap around Brands Hatch Indy track with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Brands Hatch. Paddock Hill Bend is as tricky as usual, especially with a lift throttle oversteer. But the real danger lies in the compression at the bottom of the hill where the car can bottom out and spin instantly. From there, we come to one of the few good overtaking spots at Druids. But try not to turn in too early because this car loves to understeer when on the power. Back down the hill, it's only a short straight before Graham Hill Bend. The AstroTurf to the outside is all fair game, so it's best to use it liberally to help carry your speed. You finally get a little breather before Surtees, but on this shorter layout, it's nearly flat out on your way in. That's because it switches back into McLaren right away. Stay off the curbs and ease onto the brakes. Then you have to wait and wait and wait until finally you can turn into the super late apex of clearways. It's important to not have to lift from drifting wide because it's a long climb up the Brabham Straight. And while Paddock Hill Bend is tough for passing, drivers might just be eager enough to try it. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around Brands Hatch. There's a lap up and down the hills of the short Indy version of the circuit here at Brands Hatch. And if you watched that and thought that, well, I could do that in those cars, you actually can. And you can do it through Southeast Spec Racer. Southeast Spec Racer is a full-service Spec Racer Ford prep shop located in Daytona Beach, Florida. Offering a fleet of race-ready SRFs and the driver coaching to go with it, SSR is your one-stop shop for all things spec. They also offer transportation and storage, parts, and advice. You can find them at southeastspecracer.com. Definitely give them a look if you do have the itch to try and race one of these cars for real. Now let's take a look at the championship real quick. We have 2 specs. This is sort of the pro and amateur championships. Let's start with spec 1, of course. Up at the top, David Gaspers returns to the top spot after Kane Halliburton could only do no better than 6th. That drops him only 1 position. Daniel Sadro back there in 3rd is being followed relatively closely by Jerry McAreevy, who makes a big jump up to 4th. And then Jason Perry finds himself falling down to 5th in that. Let's go to the Spec 2 championship, Steph.
Well, Alejandro Liero, he is your first place in your Spec 2 driver standings. He's in total 72 points behind your Spec 1 leader. Bob Kern, he is 19 points behind. He is still sitting in there in a 2nd place. Tom Gradwell, he's gaining 1 position, 29 points behind Alejandro Liero. Adam Bradshaw, the big mover on this sheet, plus 6 positions. They're in 4th, 39 points behind, but there's just 1 point between him and Ed Doherty, who also gained 4 positions, sitting 40 points behind Alejandro Liero in 5th. And honestly, I'm expecting some more movement in that Spec 2 class because they're just so tight.
And of course, if you've never watched this, since we are on the iRacing Esports Network for the first time, the Weekend Warriors has their own little format, so let's take a look at the race details. We are in round 3 of 9. It's a shortened season, and there's only one drop week. Apologies, we've been misreporting that in the previous 2 rounds. Only one because of the shorter season. Now, setups are open on the car, but there's not a whole lot that you can tweak. They're very limited machines and intentionally made so, but they have limited the fuel compared to what the real cars can run. That means you'll see 1 expected stop. And for fuel, of course, they've rationed the points, so it's a little bit different from a lot of series where they have fixed finishing position points, but they do have fixed points for 1st through 3rd. That's one thing we should point out. 100 for a win, 90 for 2nd, and 83 for 3rd. Everything from there on down to last gets apportioned out. And they do have 1 spare car that they have in case something goes wrong. And as always, they have penalty points if they have too many incidents out there. So it can affect your championship if you're kind of sloppy out on track. And this is not a track, though, that they want to be sloppy at, Steph. This, I found, at least in my time running around it, was really tricky in this car.
Yeah, especially with this car, it's so incredibly tricky. Taking Paddock Hill Bend, for example, you have a camber change right at the apex. First, it's a plus camera, and then suddenly it falls away to the left of you. And right on the apex, on top of that, not that that's only tricky enough already, you also have the track who just falls away about 2 or 3 stories or something like that. It's just incredibly deep at the bottom of the hill. You once again, quite a hard dip. If you hit that wrong with a little bit too much of a steering angle, you're once again gonna spin out, and the walls are mighty close there.
Now, if you're enjoying this already today, well, you've got even more to come, but we want to make sure that you subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network, where we're broadcasting it today. There's a little red button if you're not subscribed. It says subscribe. All you got to do is click that, and you can catch all of the World Championship races as well as many other series here on IESN. Qualifying taking place, and we're starting to run out of time for that. It looks like Kane Halliburton is on the pole once again. Daniel Manenkov giving him a run for things. However, I'm trying to see where exactly is our points leader, Gaspers. Did he even show up today? Is he missing?
I do not see him in the list, if I'm honest. So no, he is not showing up.
Ooh, well, that is going to change things around here. And of course, there's many other fast drivers that could give him a run for his money. One of which surprises me, is our current Spec 2's pole sitter, Alejandro Liero. He's been doing a great job, but look at this, Steph. He is in 3rd in qualifying right now. Those are dizzying heights for the 282.
It's not the first time that Alejandro Liero shows his pace, so I'm not very surprised about this. I think last week he was a bit further back, but in week 1 he was in 5th place, so Alejandro Liero once again showing that he is a force to reckon with, even compared to the Spec 1 drivers.
So just a minute left, and the drivers continue to bring in lap times. Steph, one of the things that I'm very, very curious about, because we have seen them run on short circuits before, but this one, incredibly narrow, as you talked about, difficult to pass on. Is traffic going to play a part in who wins today, or do you think it's not going to be that much of a problem?
I hope it's not, but I'm kind of fearing it will be. We have right now in this session 39 cars on a lap that's just 52.5 seconds long. So traffic will play a part, especially because you have to drive this in pretty much just one way. There's no other way to drive it with this car. Problems with overtaking, most definitely McLaren. That's the connector of the Indy circuit between Surtees and Clark Curve. So that's a bit of a problem point there, maybe Druids, but let's hope that nothing happens and everything goes clean.
Absolutely. Gorka Idarate, a newcomer in this series, running his rookie season in the Weekend Warriors, finds himself once again within the top 5. Wonder if he could maybe finally get his first win of the season. Steve Elson comes across the line, and it looks like he does not get a timed lap on that one, so he will stay in 8th position as the checkered flag now comes out. Who all is just finishing up? There's going to be a lot of them coming off across quick and fast here. So a bunch of them actually are abandoning laps, and pretty much everybody is coming into the pit lane. Don't see anybody finishing the lap. Ian Wilson looks like he's going to be the first taker to take the checkers here. He currently sits in 27th, and as he crosses, he does not improve, unfortunately.
Edward Doherty is still coming around to the start-finish straight. Let's see what he's doing. He is sitting right now in 11th, going over the line there, does not improve.
One of our top runners for the Spec 2 is Adam Bradshaw. He's going to try and cross the line. He sits in 14th, which looks to be 3rd in the Spec 2 class right now. And as he crosses, he also does not improve. So that's going to finish our starting grid. On the pole today, it is going to be Kane Halliburton looking to come back and maybe lessen the mistakes that he saw at Laguna Seca. Daniel Manikoff will be on the front row with him. Let's see what he can do. Alejandro Liero will be 3rd. This is an incredible improvement for Alejandro. James Tabor will start P4. Gorka Idarate, as I mentioned, starts in 5th with Henrik Lindhoff starting P6. Then in 7th, it's Jason Perry. Steven Elson will start 8th, and Miroslav Juracek will be 9th. Antonio Reese rounds out our top 10.
Edward Doherty will start on the left side of row 6. He's only your 2nd Spec 2 driver right now. Stevie Ray, he's 12th, lining alongside there. Jens Nordström, 13th. Adam Bradshaw, 14th. Chris Murakami is rounding out your top 15. In row 7, we're gonna have Paul Godden and Rick Hansen. Michael Shaw will be 18th. Tom Gradwell, 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is Fred Design.
Daniel Sadro will be 21st with C. Love starting in 22nd. Then it's Bob Kern starting 23rd. Jeff Cantor starts in the 24th spot. That's a pretty good qualifying for him, honestly. Miro Hraski, 25th. Guillermo Crevo starts P26. He'll be followed by Ian Wilson in 27th. Then it's Keith Walsh on the outside of him in 28th. Paul Hickey starts 29th, and Jim McGill will be 30th.
Mark Geehan is 31st, John Dion 32nd, Gary Walbot 33rd, Andrew Spicer 34th, Herward Hell in 35th, Mats Sjöblom in 36th, Felipe Negroni is the 37th driver and last car to put in a qualifying lap, and in 38th and 39th we have Kartik Pai and Richard Franco.
Only 2 drivers not to get a lap time in around here. I'm kind of surprised because 20 minutes and less than a minute, you've got lots of time to try and iterate and get one on the board. But the pace car has now taken off. We'll get a rolling start here in round 3, just as we do every week. One thing as I was taking a few laps around this course myself that I noticed here, Steph, is the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend, that compression there. There was a number of times I spun from the car bottoming out, but granted, I was running the baseline set. Is there anything in the setup you can do to help prevent that, or is it just something you got to watch out for?
It's a bit of a combination. Not only is the compression there, but also the curb is a bit higher than usual there, so you're most likely just running onto the curb rather than the track itself. The one thing you can do is just raise up that rear ride height to get a bit of a to have the rear get up there. So it will be interesting what they can do and will do, but most likely you want to have the car as low as possible.
Well, of course, that'll help the handling. We'll see who's got the speed as fast as possible here today, as Kane Halliburton does not wait around. Green flag is out here, round 3 of the Weekend Warriors, almost making contact between 2nd and 3rd, as Liero up to the inside of Daniel Manikoff tries to squeeze him towards the outside. Manikoff takes it deeper into the corner as they all plunge down the hill, but Manikoff is very, very loose, saves it somehow, and the rest of the field looks like they've managed to get through safely in the first corner at least.
safe, but still side by side, everyone here for the first 15 or so positions. So everyone is still trying to get as much as possible out of the start.
Manenkov all sorts of loose. Even Graham Hill Ben saw him get all the way sideways there. They're still side by side with Liero. Liero's got the inside. There's a big accident behind them. That's Henrik Lindhoff, who finds himself spun off. Everybody else manages to collect it together. We've got the replay.
Lindhoff gets a shot there a little bit into the rear by James Tibor through McLaren and then also through Clark Curve. Jason Perry gets turned around.
Jason also gets it going once again, but looks like Lindhoff really gets the worst of those two incidents. This is Elson on the inside of Perry. Perry goes to turn in, and we come back live. So Perry winds up back in ninth, so not too many lost. In fact, there's quite a few battles in front of him. Tibor still fighting with Elson, who has started to drop off of the top four. Ooh. That's Gorka having some issues there, and he falls a little ways down. And Tibor as well finds himself now in 12th.
Not the best start for Tibor so far. He really has to start to get his stuff together. He's just falling apart right now.
Got to give some credit to Liero, even though he's dropped off a bit on second place. In fact, is going to lose third here to Gorka Iterate. He's still sitting in fourth, so it seems like he's making good on this speed. As he follows very closely, tries to catch the car. He goes wide off into the grass, and now Steve Elson is going to have an opportunity to get by.
Alejandro Liero going there for a rallycross route. Obviously, Brands Hatch once had a rallycross track here. Taking a big jump.
That too. Yeah, he is now down to fifth, so 2 positions lost in 1 lap. Michael Shaw in the back finds himself turned around the wrong direction, and Clark. This one was all on his own. Little wiggle up on the curb seems to have started it, Steph.
Yeah, a bit too harsh there on the brakes, and loses it on the brakes, then the curb.
Oh, and Manenkov. What happened to Manenkov? Did he fall victim to the compression? It looks like he did.
Yeah, he did, and immediately pulled off the track there.
He slammed in
not
very
happy
hard. Let's watch the Michigan driver's view here on board, just over his shoulder on entry. It's looking decent, Oh, and then it starts to come around a little bit, and as soon as he touched that curb, it was nights out.
Yes, it's exactly what I was talking about there. It's the camber just falls away and the track, and then it comes all back together. And if you're a little bit squared up, you're gonna lose it.
Well, there's our leader, Kane Halliburton, now leading by 3 seconds over Gorka Iterate with that problem from Manenkov. But we've seen this from Kane before. He's had the speed, but it's been himself that's been his own worst enemy, if anything. So he's really got to hold it together. This is no guarantee. Gorka, running back there in the number 10, is trying to hold off Steve Elson, still within reaching distance in the number 56. And Liero has found himself back up in fourth after the problems for Manenkov.
Yes, as you said, Kane Halliburton, his worst enemy is himself, and strangely enough, he makes the most incidents when being alone. So we really have to watch out with Kane, because he is incident prone when he draws alone.
Now here's what's interesting. Looking at the Spec 2 Championship, Edward Doherty is up to 5th. So Edward also doing very good. He is 2nd place in Spec 2. And then you have to go all the way down to 12th before you get to Adam Bradshaw, who's currently holding the last podium spot in that amateur championship. But a lot of points are going to be gained by these two if they can hold it together up there.
Yes, Edward Doherty alongside 2 other drivers right now. Your biggest mover in the field from 11th to 5th in just 6 laps. That's really, really great stuff there so far from Edward.
So we watch Chris Murakami behind him, trying to challenge, locked up his brakes a little bit coming through clearways. Gets himself a decent run, but don't forget Fred Desai behind him. That's in the yellow and black car giving chase. So essentially a three-way fight for P12 as they come up to Paddock Hill Bend one more time. Get on the binders, duck it in, and we got a car off ahead of them. That is Miro Vrasky.
He's already a lapped car there, spun it right into one coming out of the pits.
And that, I think, caused a little bit of a checkup for Murakami because he got challenged by Desai as a little bit of a hit check for Miro Vrasky. This is not a track where you want to be a lap down this early.
No, not at all, especially with the field still being this packed. This can really hurt someone's chances.
He's trying to give way as best he can to all these drivers, but oh, and we got another car off there. That was Hereward Hill. He gets it going once again. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he's also quite a ways down the order and already a lap down. So back up to the front, the battle for third. Actually, the battle for second here, because Gorka Iturrate being challenged by Steve Elson. Down towards Graham Hill Bend. This is something of a train going from second all the way back to sixth, where Jason Perry brings up the caboose.
Yes, it's right now the Iturrate train here. Not the famous trolley train, but still as fast there and as holding up there, as four cars are trying to get around Gorka, but he is just too good out of every single turn so far.
Back up the Brabham Straight one more time. Elson's looking pretty close. If he's gutsy, he could send one in. He's taking a look. He's taking it all the way to the inside, but he's not deep enough on the brakes. That certainly didn't seem like it was going to work.
No, it sure didn't seem like, but he tried.
He looks like he's trying to get in the head of Gorka here. That's his second try in two corners up to Druids from a long ways back. We've seen a few drivers spinning out here today. We haven't looked at the weather yet, though. An 102 degrees on a track here, Steph. What does that do out here? Is that not desirable?
It is not desirable at all because the track will be quite slippery. And with these cars, you don't want a slippery track. So these guys might have to fight a little bit more with their car than usual.
Elson goes from attack to defense. Here comes Alejandro Liero looking to get back onto the podium. I believe this might be the first time ever Alejandro would get on the podium here in this series. As he doesn't make the pass into Paddock Hill Bend, he squares him up once more and is too far behind. Elson trying once again on Gorka. I feel like at some point that's going to bite him badly.
Yeah, these guys are starting to fight a bit too hard for my liking, especially letting Kane Halliburton run away, who is now coming up to the first real traffic of this race.
So as they come around to that final corner once again, wow, Doherty got almost a shove from behind from Perry there. We got something of a battle happening just behind them in 7th, 8th, and 9th. Stevie Ray's trying to chase Juracek, but honestly, I'd say if anything, Ray needs to worry about the car behind him, Antonio Rees, as well as Jens Nordstrom.
Yes, everything is still... Oh, someone spun!
Oh, it's Steve Elson! Is this another one falling victim to that curb? Oh, it started before that. It was the other curb.
Yes, it was the other curb. He just took too much inside curb, spun it around, and sadly also hit the wall there, as you can see. There he goes onto the curb and just loses it.
Oof. That's a hard shunt to the back of the car. So hopefully he didn't damage the engine too much. Gets it going back in 15th. That is a long ways down from the podium. I'm sure Steve's going to be disappointed with that.
Well, if his engine is damaged, he was parked there at the BMW power sign, so there you go.
Fred Desai now trying to challenge Murakami. We've watched these two before. Gives him a slight bump draft, ducks to the inside. He's got the speed. Let's see if he can make the pass down to Paddock Hill Bend. He's not brave enough as the track drops away between them. Don't forget, that's Henrik Lindhoff. Yep, he's got speed up the inside. Going to try and make the attack on Desai, and I think he's got it if he can get the power down coming out of Druids. beautiful textbook move from Henrik.
Yes, perfect execute there. The threat is out with the little mistake there on Chris Murakami, and Henrik right there to take advantage of it. Maybe even try to take there something away from Murakami, and yes he does. Murakami just giving it to him. Oh, that was very close.
Yeah, Murakami looked a little bit out of sorts there. We had a car off track. I think that's Doherty. Oh no, our second place in the Spec 2 falls backwards, and now he's going to lose it to Bradshaw as we watch the replay.
Let's see what happened there. Oh, very unfortunate. He actually got a shove there from Jason Perry from behind.
Oh, and now Gorka's had problems. We're going to get a replay of this one. Oh, he got some help. This was Liero into Paddock Bend. A lot of help.
Very interesting there. Either Gorka did brake too late or just Alejandro just forgot about the turn.
And watch from Liero's point of view. The Scandinavian was pretty close. I guess he didn't expect that he would have an opportunity pass. Yeah, he was right up underneath him. So the good news for Gorka is that he didn't hit anything other than that shove from behind, as I think we have our first taker for scheduled stop. Stevie Ray is now in there, and Steve Elson, who I expect probably going to take a spare car.
Yeah, Steve Elson, he's going to take that spare car. Probably too much damage there for his own good, so deciding I'm going to take it safe and go into pit lane. Stevie Ray, he's already off the pit limiter again. No, he's not. They don't have him.
Boy, wouldn't it be nice if they did. Ray back out on track. Let's go to 5th place, though. Antonio Reese has been inheriting positions bit by bit with all of this action. But he's got to worry about Jens Nordstrom behind him, as well as the action between the two drivers, James DeBoer and Adam Bradshaw, now challenging.
And we're starting to really see a little bit of traffic now coming up to these guys. So it's just Branch Heads Indy. It's so small of a track, so short, that with a grid like this, you just have that traffic starting. As there's a spin in turn 1!
That was Richard Franco, one of the lapped cars, and I think he was hit by Liero. That was our second place driver. He tried so hard to avoid him.
Very hard hit there from Alejandro.
He had very little time to react as well. Well, this promotes Jason Perry now up in second place.
Later just spun. Oh. Shoulder check by Miro Rashi, spinning him around.
We're coming back live here for a second. And you can see he's now down in 15th. I think we have the replay on this second incident. Yep. Just saw the tail end of it there.
Yeah, as you can see, they're right through Graham Hill Bend, and that's quite some damage to Alejandro's car. So he's probably going to pit in for some repairs there. No, he is back.
Yeah, from bad to worse. Wow, that was a hard hit to the side. He really should come in for repairs, I feel like. He stays out. Our highest pitter right now is still Stevie Ray. He's down to 23rd. But with Alejandro having those problems, as he has another little off out of Druids, that promotes Adam Bradshaw not just up to the lead in Spec 2. He is now all the way up to 6th position.
Yeah, incredible driving by Adam Bradshaw.
Ooh, just ahead of him, that was a big peek to the inside on Jens Nordstrom by James DeBoer. Didn't quite come off, though. They fly up the front stretch one more time, climbing to that first corner. And they're all going to stay in line for now. We're seeing a number of drivers out of position due to mistakes, but the only one that we probably expected but haven't seen yet is action happening. Doherty gets spun around and Lindhoff hits him. Gorka Iturrate was involved in that. He gets it going once again. That car backwards that you see is Doherty himself, who was in second in the Spec 2 championship before that happened.
Yes, quite a bit ambitious there from Gorka, leaving Edward no chance to react on that.
It has been a rough race today. I described it as being like a bull ring for road racers, and, well, it's really coming true. This is looking more like super late models out here.
Sure does right now, but hey, these cars, they're tough. They can take some beating if they need to.
There's Halliburton, who's got a little damage of his own on the left side of the car. Not sure when and how he did that. Let's take a little bit look back at the battle for third, though. Juracek has now been promoted on the podium. Jens Nordstrom giving him a challenge. They've also got the likes of De Boer and Bradshaw breathing down their necks.
Yes, indeed. And I just saw the damage there from Kane Halliburton. It was on lap 13, sorry, 5 laps ago. And he got hit by a lapped car in the rear.
Oh my goodness, is this the same car in the same spot? It is! Liero and Hraski. Oof, those two probably not going to be having a friendly chat afterwards. And I can't really blame Muro on this one. He was all the way to the edge of the track. So Lindhoff comes in after his heavy damage from the incident in Druids, takes his spare car and gets going once again. Returns in what looks like about 25th position.
Yes, and as you said, bit of a weird incident there between Hraski and Liero once again, but yeah, Hraski has already been in a few shunts there, but none of them were his fault really so far.
Watching once again, James De Boer dealing with the likes of Jens Nordstrom up ahead of him. Nordstrom in the yellow and blue car staying to the outside, gives the racing line to James De Boer, who sends it in deep, and I think he manages to make it grip because he is now up to 4th.
Adam Bradshaw was nearly giving there an opportunity on Jens Nordstrom as Jens tried to do a little bit of an undercut there on James Tibor, which didn't work. It slowed down too much and nearly gave the opportunity to Adam Bradshaw.
Well, that fighting is good news for Juracek up ahead of them, who pulls himself a slight little gap over those three. And they are definitely coming up on lap traffic now. Andrew Spicer up ahead of them, John Dion then up next. So who's going to deal with it best? And Juracek makes what I think is a bit of a clever move. He comes into pit.
It is an interesting move. I would say it's a bit of a bold one. We're about halfway through the race already. Still got about 2 minutes to go till halfway, so...
He doesn't take his fast repair, though, even though he's got some damage. Now, I'm trying to remember, who did he make contact with? Because I want to say that we saw him touch another car at one point. I guess it's driving fine. I mean, if you're up on the podium, it clearly is.
It has to be fast.
See Love in 10th. Yeah, exactly. This is the battle for 9th. Bob Kern leads Love and Sadro. Like you said, almost halfway through the race now as we work our way through Surtees into McLaren now. And then back up to the main course. And Gorka has had more problems. This is after he's taken a pit stop. Oh, I think this one was all on his own.
Let's have a look there. He's already loose after Druids.
Yeah, just can't catch the car in time. And, well, the tires are right there. So he slams it into the wall yet again. And Gorka gets demoted to 24th out of that. The driver who's somehow managed to make good on these early pit stops is Stevie Ray, who's now up to 17th and still the highest pitter. A number of fast drivers who've come in have not been able to stay ahead of him.
No, Stevie Ray, he's just playing the safe game, letting people by if they want to get by and just stay out of trouble, and it does do him very well.
Right on board with the number 11 car. Let's head back to Bob Kern because that fight staying incredibly close as Sadro and Love follow him up to Paddock Hill Bend. Just ahead of them, that is a lapped car. Mark Gehan that they're trying to chase down. A little bit of a look to the inside by Love. Gehan tries to let them through as he almost loses the car in the process. Gets it back on course.
Now, Bob Kern, the guy who's leading this pack of 3 cars, he is right now your biggest mover, 23rd to 9th.
And that's with qualifying too, so as Bill would like to say, that is a legitimate 9th position. Meanwhile, Tabor comes in, and I believe, yeah, exactly halfway. We should see maybe a few takers in these laps, as some drivers like to split it up evenly. Hits his stall. And C. Love also comes in from that battle, seeing if he could use a little strategy to get himself out of that sandwich.
James Tibor, he took a new car. He quickly hopped into his new car.
This is a long stop, though.
Yes, indeed.
About
Very soft now.
5 seconds longer than all the other drivers around him. He comes back out in 19th, so it is still Stevie Ray up at the front of the cars who have pitted. Could Stevie Ray have pulled the wool over a number of drivers' eyes and find himself with a top 5 today? He's actually still on the lead lap even.
Yes, about 30 seconds or so back on your leader, who is still Kane Halliburton. And I can tell you something, the guy who's probably all smiles right now, apart from Kane Halliburton and Steve Ray, it's that number 97, it's Jason Perry.
Yeah, up to second place, having qualified in 7th. This has been a great climb from him as well. The driver behind him, Nordstrom, newly into the Spec 1 category this season, goes from 13th on the grid up to 3rd now. There have been those who have thrown away opportunities, and there are those that are grabbing it with both hands today. We see Nordstrom in the number 69 car here to complete another lap. Still waiting on a number of our top of the field to come in to take their scheduled stop. Let's jump over to Desai here in 6th position, still giving chase to Murakami for 5th.
Yes, and Murakami is starting to creep away ever so slightly through the last 2 or 3 laps.
Desai is keeping them within reach. And those two have lost touch with Adam Bradshaw, who currently leads our Spec 2. So it's basically a fight between the 01 and the 76 for now. Great run coming out of Graham Hill Bend for Fred Desai, as the Frenchman tries to hunt down the likes of Chris Murakami, the Northwest driver, taking it around clearways with lap traffic up ahead. Filippo Negroni stays wide, lets them through nice and cleanly. And whatever Desai may have lost recently, he has gained back in this lap alone, it looks like, with a great run up to Paddock Hill Bend. Was he going to take a peek? No. He's going to sit and wait patiently, Steph.
Yes, he is, but he has a bit of a run here, but not enough to get up to Druid and get alongside Chris Murakami here. Now going into turn 2. Up next, Graham Hill Bend. Very tricky left-hander there at the bottom of the hill. Let's see, Fred Desai once again not able to do there, but will he get around there? Not really, no.
Still stayed right in the tire tracks of that red and white machine. They weave their way through the S's of Surtees and McLaren. Ooh, he's very, very close now. If he gets a good run, this could be his best opportunity yet. He gets in the slipstream, tries to use it to his advantage, climbing up the hill now. He's less than a car length back. This time, will he look? No, once again, he decides to sit and wait.
Yeah, I think his best opportunity is turn 1, because he always gets a good run out of Cloud Curve. Out of the other turns, he doesn't really get too much of a run. But Chris Murakami is always making that slight mistake through Cloud Curve. If he can manage to not do any mistakes through there anymore, he might, just might, run away from Fred Desai.
Now, despite all the problems that we've seen out on track, we still have 32 cars still running out there at the moment, and at least 19 of them are on the lead lap. So it's still a very full circuit here around Brands Hatch. Taking a look at Jim McGill, who's in a nice little fight with Stevie Ray. Going up and around the outside, Jim McGill and the yellow machine, Stevie Ray, and the black and red down to the inside. He now finds himself up to 12th.
Up to 12th. Is that already? Yes, that is. The next car already up ahead here. That's Guillaume Cravo, and he's already going side by side here into Druids and easily takes the 11th place.
Guillermo doesn't fight it, though. He does chop off Jim McGill. Heading through the apex of Druids. So move Guillermo down to 12th, Stevie up to 11th. About 32 seconds behind Halliburton now, so he's lost a little bit of time since we last looked at that gap to the leader. I don't think a win is on for the number 11 at this point, but I am starting to wonder if maybe even a podium is possible for Stevie.
Well, if it continues like this, Jason Perry is about losing the same amount of time every single lap as Stevie Ray, so we might see something happening there. It's just 22 seconds up to Jens Nordström, and he's already 3rd place.
That's Perry we see on screen right now in the 97. The car behind him is not for position. That's ironically Gorka Iterade all the way down in 21st. So normally you would think that would be a battle for a spot. But unfortunately for Gorka, it is just riding it out and try to get himself a few points salvaged. This is Halliburton, our leader, ahead of everyone at the moment. He won the first round. He threw away the second round, and I think he's about to make his comeback.
He sure does look so mistake-free so far. So let's quickly jump away from him again so we don't jinx him.
Rick Hansen and the Spec 2 Championship comes in to pit. I don't believe we've even mentioned Rick at all so far this race. He started from 17th. Let's see where his pit stop releases him out to. Not going to be the highest pitter on this one, and I think about 18th or 19th it looks like he'll come out. 17th.
17th it is for him, quite a bit back there on James Tibor, who is already going into Druids.
Paul Godden takes his stop, returns in 19th position. So it looks like he'll get 20th as a few more cars stream by before all is said and done. Still waiting on about 11 cars, so maybe about 13 or 14, to come in and take their scheduled stop. With only 11 minutes to go, we're getting towards the end of the pit window. Jim McGill, a little bit of damage on the right front. Did he get that recently?
I think he already had that one, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm seeing it was there at least for a couple laps. 5th place in a hot little fight to Chris Murakami. Just got overtaken by Fred Desai, and it's not over. Oh, yeah, it is over. That is Solblom. He's a lap down. So let's take a look at the replay then and see how this one happened. It was many laps in the making.
Very interesting.
It was... Stewards might have something to say about that one.
I have to say, for me, it's a netcode there between Fred Desai and Chris Murakami.
Murakami, he's come in. I wonder if he was low on fuel, and that's what caused the unexpected checkup there. So maybe nobody really to blame, just, well, I guess you could blame Chris for not getting fuel when he needed it. Fred Desai follows him in.
And yes, I can confirm Chris Murakami was out of fuel.
Oh, interesting. So drivers pushing a little bit far, even though it is a short lap here. Chris comes back out all the way down in 16th because of that strategic error. Jason Perry, now our highest pitter, ahead of Stevie Ray, and he's got a good gap of about 2 seconds. Perry returns in 4th. Still waiting on the likes of...
Stevie Ray just had an incident with a lap car in front of him. John Dion there.
Let's see, did Dion get loose here? Yeah, he did. We're going to see Stevie Ray's view here from on the nose. The car suddenly veers in front of him. Oof. I really hope that didn't hurt the suspension of the car, because what a great run this has been for the number 11 car.
Yeah, an incredible run for Stevie Ray so far. And if he can keep up this pace that he showed us all race long, then he is right there for P3, a potential podium.
Now, speaking of comebacks, the number 56 of Steve Elson, remember, he had a hard hit into the wall, had to take a spare car. He's up to 6th, and that is before the likes of Kern, Sadro, and Halliburton have pitted. Now, Sadro and Kern he might pass, but Halliburton not likely. So this should at least promote him potentially up to 4th, I want to say. Takes another lapped car. Oh, no, that's for position. That's Stevie Ray that he just overtook. So now definitely up to 4th for Steve Elson. And Halliburton pits.
It does seem like Stevie Ray feels a little bit of damage on his car.
Oh, what a shame that is. Let's see, did his laps slow down at all? Last one was a 53.4, which is about what he was doing. So I think he's holding on to it. All right, Bob Kern has pitted. He slots back out in 19th. And Sadro is in as well. Halliburton is back out in the lead. Perry takes 2nd. And Elson up to a podium.
Kane Halliburton, quick update on the pit exit. He got cut off by the lapped car of James Tibor. He nearly ran into the wall there through the narrow exit of the pit lane here.
8 minutes left to go, and John Dion and Filippo Negroni are the only two who have yet to pit. They're very far down the order, so not really major players out there today. What about our Spec 2 championship? We've seen all kinds of crazy stuff over there. Well, Adam Bradshaw now leads. The number 205 currently running in 8th position. He's got a number of cars between himself and 2nd, which is Rick Hansen, actually having to fight for that one because Alejandro Liero is looking to come back from his problems. He sits 3rd in that race. So what kind of battles do we have here coming to the line? Elson and Ray have not separated, even though Elson seems to have a little bit better pace. So I'm not sure if that one will really tighten up. But for top 5, Henrik Lindhoff has got Miroslav Juracek applying the pressure and Jens Nordstrom. Very, very close.
Henrik Lindhoff nearly spun there through the ruins, being quite sideways through the apex there, but being able to keep it together and stay in front of Juracek and Nordstrom.
Looks like he's going to hold on for now. The number 8 being hounded still by the 84 and the 69 as Nordstrom takes a little bit of a peek on Juracek coming up into clear ways, but can't get his nose underneath. They climb up the hill one more time. That is Adam Bradshaw you can see behind them. That is also for position. He sits in 8th.
And he is coming. He's getting closer and closer to this 3 cars ahead of him.
Oof. Little bobble over the curb there for Lindhoff. And he locks up the brakes. You talk about feeling the pressure. You mentioned it before. We're seeing a lot of errors and another one off the track from Hendrick. He's got to calm down.
Being pressured is always hard to withstand, and he is under full pressure. Can he hold on to it? We shall see. I'm crossing my fingers.
Juracek might be able to get something out of this, find himself within the top 5. Lot cleaner coming through that final corner for Lindhoff this time. Back onto the Brabham Straight, we ride on board with 84 of Juracek.
Adam Bradshaw, though, he's already at the back of Jens Nordstrom. So he is probably gonna look to try to do something there as the car spins ahead!
Ooh,
that was so close for Lindhoff.
Cravo, who's a lap down, finds himself falling afoul of the compression. He didn't touch the curb, but the car still managed to get away from him. Beautiful job by everybody. Watch this as they just
Lindhoff
split him. On replay right now. Whew.
Out of Graham Hill Bend, Lindhoff with a big wobble, but Juracek not able to do anything with that opportunity. So Lindhoff still 5th and Juracek 6th.
Ooh, Nordstrom's got a great run up the Brabham straight, though. Juracek going to go slightly defensive on the straightaway. Comes back to the racing line. Nordstrom decides to hold off, but he's only got about 4 or 5 laps to try and make a move here. Same thing with Bradshaw behind them. Ooh, and second place getting close now. Stevie Ray has been riding the coattails of Elson up to the back of Jason Perry. Can Perry as well withstand this and hold on to this second place? So far, Spider-Man's been doing pretty well, but it's going to have a lot to ask for because we know Steve Elson is no slouch.
Jason Perry seems to have made a big mistake there in lap 38 because he lost that lap 2.5 seconds on Steven Elson behind him.
So as they follow him down the hill one more time, Elson swinging a little bit wider than Perry, trying to carry that speed, but it doesn't work this time. They break for Druids, swing it around the 180-degree bend, plunge it back down the hill, and continue to give chase. If they start fighting, they're not too far ahead of Lindhoff back in 5th and that other train that we were watching before. We could see a perfect storm start to brew here for second place.
Yes, that would be very interesting. 7 cars fighting it out for that P2. But as of right now, we have a train of 3 cars fighting for P2 and 4 for P5.
Perry leads them up and across the line. 3 minutes left to go now.
Stevie Ray, he's starting to drop off ever so slightly right now off the 2.
Ooh, that'll be disappointing.
That gets to him.
Yeah, that'll be disappointing if he loses out on this. Even still, a 4th place, no mean feat, having qualified in 12th. Oh man, Elson is all over the back of Perry now as they come out of Graham Hill Bend. I get a feeling that Steven is just setting him up. Up and through clearways now. All he has to do is get a good run off the corner. He's going to have the slipstream to help him. It's not that long of a straight, but it should be something. Only 3/10 back. I don't think it was a good enough mash on the power out of that final right-hander.
2 minutes remain on the clock. That means 3, maybe 4 more laps, depending on where Kane Halliburton crosses the line. But yeah, no more. Not a lot of chances left there for Steve Elson to take away that second place from Jason Perry.
Follows him down the hill through our special tree-averse helicopter. And more lap traffic, trying to stay out of the way. Let's see, where is Halliburton? Halliburton's going to come across the line. 2 laps to go this time for Jason Perry to try and hold on to second place, and they have absolutely dropped Steve Ray. In fact, Steve Ray is starting to come under threat from Hendrik Lindhoft.
Yeah, Stevie Ray is starting to make a lot of mistakes right now.
Elson looks to the outside. He's going to try and make a move. Can he get the over-under here? He looks to put the power down, but Jason Perry is wise to that. He gets a good run off the corner and keeps Elson back. Elson takes a little bit of a look into Druids. That's his favorite spot we saw earlier in the race, but it didn't work any of those times. Can it work this time when they get the white flag?
Good run for Elson right there, but Cooper Strait just not long enough to do anything in these cars.
Deep onto the brakes. He goes a little bit wide. I wonder if that's going to hurt him, though. Paddock Hill Bend seems to be the most popular place for pass attempts, but he stays close behind. He stays right underneath him, and Perry knows it. He hugs the inside, makes him go the long way around. Steve Elson now trying to break for Paddock Hill Bend. They're side by side through the corner, but once again, he is denied by Spider-Man. Can't quite make a move up into Druids. There's really no good opportunities left for Steve Elson. It is going to take a Hail Mary. We've got a little bit of time before we have to duck off to the leader And I think Steve Elson might have to give up the ghost here, because Kane Halliburton, coming out of the final turn, the number 12, is going to make it 2 for 3 wins here in the Weekend Warriors in 2019. Your winner today is Kane Halliburton at Brands Hatch.
Great drive from Kane Halliburton as Jason Perry is able to defend off Steven Elson for P2.
Same thing with Stevie Ray, very close between himself and Lindhoff. And, oh, is something happening to Bradshaw? Nearly gets 7th away, but he finishes in 8th with Nordstrom right beside him. Back in 17th, Bob Kern has the likes of Tabor and Godin close behind, but again, unless we get another drag race to the finish, I think this is how they are going to wind up. Kern 17th, Tabor 18th, and Godin 19th indeed. It looks like that's the way it shall be. And the last of our lead lap cars. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around though, because on screen, we're going to see all the upcoming races on GSRC. Welcome back to Brands Hatch. The Indy Circuit played host to round 3 here for the Weekend Warriors. And in the end, Kane Halliburton, excuse me, managed to come away with the win, his second of the season. A little bit of redemption for him this time. He is followed home by Jason Perry, who was 10 seconds back. Kane really romped away with it. But Jason had to hold off the likes of Steve Elson, who charged back from an early error and was just a few tenths back at the line to take third. Stevie Ray almost found himself on the podium. A little bit of damage with the car makes it a question mark on whether or not he could have in the end. But a fourth place is still admirable. Henrik Lindhoff chased him to the line. He finished fifth, with Miroslav Juracek coming home in sixth place. Jens Nordstrom continues to improve race by race. He gets seventh today. Adam Bradshaw, our winner in the Spec 2 class, he finishes eighth. Antonio Reese finishes ninth. And how about this for a climb? Daniel Sadro, qualifying 21st, finishes in 10th.
Well, another climb, but the wrong climb. Alejandro Lero, he's starting in third, finishes in 11th. Fred Desai, by the way, he's also your second place Spec 2 driver. Fred Desai, he's finishing 12th. Rick Hansen, 13th. Chris Murakami from 15th into 14th, so he only had one place gain. They're very quiet race for him. Edward Doherty from 11th to 15th, Jeff Cantor 16th, Bob Kern 17th, James Tibor finishes 18th, Paul Godden, your last car on the lead lap, 52.15 seconds behind the leader on the line in 19th, and your first car one lap down, Paul Hickey in 20th.
It's a question of what could have been for Gorka Iturrate. He finishes 21st today. Jim McGill comes home behind him 22nd. Guillermo Crevo returns and gets himself 23rd, with Michael Shaw finishing 24th. Then it's Tom Gradwell in P25. Ian Wilson finishes in 26th, and John Dion finishes 27th. Mark Gehan takes 28th today. P29 goes to Matt Solblum, and Filippo Negroni finishes 30th.
Andrew Spicer, the first car not being able to finish this race, 5 laps down in 31st. Mirashi in 32nd. Seelove 33rd. Keith Walsh 34th. Herward Hill in 35th. Richard Franco in 36th, and your last car taking the green flag, Daniel Manikov in 32nd. Not taking the green flag, Gary Walbot and Kartik Pai.
There's your finishing order for today. We're ready to talk to our second place finisher, Jason Perry. Jason, it's a shame you won't be able to see all the other battles that were out there, but you certainly had an excellent one at the end with Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Still coming down from that. I thought I had it easy second, and then I had an issue with a back marker, the 203, which lost me a couple of seconds, and then both Steves caught up to me, and I'd just been stroking it round at that point, nice easy laps, and all of a sudden I had to do 100% laps, which was a bit scary going into Paddock Hill Bend each time. I was never sure whether the car was going to stick or not.
I kind of understand that, having done a few laps around here myself. Now, how is the traffic for you? Because we were worried about that going in, that it would be a little complicated.
The traffic was a big issue. I was fortunate in that I managed to avoid most of the issues, but I saw some stuff going on behind me just after I'd passed people taking competitors just behind me out. So yeah, it was an issue. I think there were some people who weren't fully prepared. And the other issue we had was the track was a lot hotter than we've had for the rest of the week. So it was a lot more slippery.
Yeah, we noticed that 102 degrees at one point out there on track. Obviously, another podium for you. Is there anybody out there that you'd like to thank that actually watches the broadcast?
I'd like to thank everybody who watches the broadcast. I do drop in on occasion and watch the broadcast. You guys do a great job. So yeah, when I do sit down and watch it, I really enjoy it. So thanks for that. Big question I've got is, did my paint scheme show?
I'm afraid not. We had some legal issues with the Spider-Man logo that we weren't allowed to show it today. So we'll get it sorted out later, though, hopefully.
Sounds good, Joe. All right. Thanks for everything you do. And yeah, see you next week.
Thanks for talking to us. I was Jason Perry, second place today. We like ribbing Jason because he has infamously noted on the forums that he doesn't watch broadcasts. So try to take jabs when we can. In the meantime, Steve Ray is talking to Stefan Schlacker. It's been a great run for Steve out there.
Yeah, you said it there, Joe. Stevie Ray, 12th to 4th. Talk us through your first stint, because you chose quite an interesting pit strategy there.
Hi, guys. Yeah, that's kind of what my typical race has been, is just to kind of pit as early as I can with a little bit of safety play left, and then go from there. And usually it works out pretty good for me. This time I was a little concerned about it, but I came out with some good clean track for the most part, and just kept it clean and kept watching them pull into the pits and going by. So it played out to what I was hoping it would.
And go on by you did, climbing up to one point at 3rd place, and then sadly losing out to Steven Elson. But yeah, did that damage affect you after that hit with the lap car?
It might have a little bit, but I really couldn't tell. It might have took just a little bit off, but Steve was quicker most of the time anyway, so I figured he'd get by, and then I was just going to try to ride his coattail on to the end, and hopefully we could catch Jason and have a little fun there.
Well, a little fun you sure did have. Now, one thing I have to ask, we go to the 3rd track in a row, which has blind apexes and quite some elevation change. That will be Mid-Ohio with the chicane. How do you feel about that layout?
That's one of my favorite tracks. The chicane I'm not so keen on, but that's one of my favorite tracks, so I look forward.
Well, that was Stevie Ray, the organizer of the Weekend Warrior series. If you want to have some information, head over to the Spec Racer Ford forum. In the meantime, Joe Peak, he has caught up with Alejandro Liero.
Yes, 11th today for Alejandro, but I have to imagine that's going to be a little bit of a disappointment, even though it's 2nd in Spec 2. Alejandro, you started from 3rd, so let's go there first. Were you surprised about that qualifying? Because we were amazed that you were that high up.
Well, I think we can only talk about qualifying today. That would be nice. Yeah, I'm running with my friend, teammate Henry Lingdorf, who ended 5th, who was 5th in the end. So we were trying to see if we could get some drafting going on, and it worked out very well. I managed to get 3rd, and he managed to get 6th, I think, in the quali. So that I cheated a little bit. That's why.
All's fair in love and war, I suppose. So then the race came, and you actually didn't drop off. You were holding pace with some of those leaders for a while, so I think you need to give yourself a little bit of credit there. But tell us about some of the incidents that you had out there and your thoughts on them.
Yeah, the first one, I was making some mistakes, so I just let Gorka and Steven go, and I was hoping I could hang on to them. And to my surprise, I was hanging off quite well. Then Steven had a moment, and I luckily avoided him. And then I managed to catch Gorka, which also to my surprise. And then I don't know if I missed my braking spot or something. I just crashed into his back and took him out. That was terrible. I felt terrible. But then I was managing to keep up the pace. And then if I remember right, there was an accident in turn 1, and I went to the wrong side, and there was a lap car right in the middle. So then I damaged my car, and the suspension was a bit damaged. That's yeah. Then I think it's turn 3. Somebody turned in really, really sharp into me, and then the car was done. I managed to do some laps because I knew if I pitted, then I would have to pit again for fuel. But yeah, I did some laps, and then luckily I came out right behind Kane Halliburton. I came right behind the leader, and I was just riding him all the way, and I managed to make up some spots in that. In the end, quite good, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, you went through an adventure out there. Considering it worked so well in qualifying here, do you expect you and your teammate will be trying to do the same at Mid-Ohio next week?
Probably, we'll see. I think it's easier to draft in Mid-Ohio, so I think everybody will be doing it, even if they're not teammates.
All right. Well, look forward to seeing you in a week's time. Again, commiserations on not doing better, but congratulations on a podium in Spec 2.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
That was Alejandro Liero. He finished 11th overall today. That's going to close things up for us. We want to give another thank you to Stevie Ray for putting this together, as well to all the Spec Racer drivers for participating today. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, Southeast Spec Racer. Again, you can find them at southeastspecracer.com. They are in Daytona, Florida. And a big thank you goes to iRacing for bringing us onto the iRacing Esports Network. Can't encourage you enough to go subscribe because of all the great racing action that you can find on there. Just click the subscribe button and you can get everything in your feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Steph, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over the pond to Ohio, one of my favorite tracks as well. And it's going to be the chicane version, so it's going to be slightly different from what people are used to in modern day. That'll be Sunday, January 27th at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.